While everybody's talking about AGI, Google DeepMind released a paper recently about the road from AGI to ASI, from artificial general intelligence to artificial superintelligence, which I think is really worth diving into. In this video, I'm going to explore what Google wrote about this transition, which could be a world transforming transition.
The Latent Frontier.
So Google DeepMind released this paper just about 14 days ago, 2 weeks ago, from AGI to ASI. And I will leave the link below the video so you could read through it yourself. I do recommend you take a look at it or just watch through this video to get the content through that. But everyone's talking about AGI, artificial general intelligence. And what a lot of people think is artificial general intelligence is pretty close. Some people think we may already be there at artificial general intelligence, and I agree to some extent. I don't think there's any one singular point where we will achieve AGI. I think it's kind of a spiky thing where we're hitting it in certain areas at certain times. And basically, Google's saying AGI may not be the final shock. It may not be the big explosion on the horizon. ASI is what's going to basically revolutionize the world, the way we live, in my opinion. They talk about how there are 4 pathways to ASI, artificial superintelligence, which I'm going to dive into in this video. And they also talk about why this matters now. So let's dive right into it, folks. Why DeepMind wrote this paper? AGI is treated as a next decade goal, right? So not only Google, but just about all the scientists or top of the frontier researchers think that AGI is within arm's reach, whether it's going to be sometime in the early 2030s or in the 2030s, or perhaps maybe it's going to be 2027, 2029. Perhaps we're already touching upon AGI, which is what I believe. We're already kind of hitting some edges of AGI. But the thing is, what happens after AGI, right? That's the question Google wanted to really explore in this paper. And they're wondering if after we hit AGI, will there be a bit of a plateau or will there be an acceleration? Their thesis is that AGI may be the start of a ramp. It's not the finish line. It's basically just the start of a ramp. What counts as ASI, right? And AGI. What counts as AGI versus ASI? AGI is artificial general intelligence, right? So you could think of it this way. It's sort of like when the AI is basically like broad level human cognition across most tasks, right? Across almost everything, the AI will be just as good as us, if not better than us. It's easy to see how it's already there in many respects, right? And I think people are focusing on AGI too much, and that's okay. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but I think ASI is really going to be amazing. There's a lot of potential. There's a lot of potential issues with it as well. I don't think our society obviously is set up for ASI, just like any major technology or technological revolution in history. We have to adapt. We have to change our societal structures, our economy, everything, the way we do business. ASI, however, is superhuman capability across virtually everything. So ASI is when the AI is superior to us pretty much across the board. Artificial superintelligence everywhere. And we're going to dive more into what that could look like shortly. Digital intelligence gains speed, memory. It's going to gain speed, memory, copying, parallelism. I'm also going to double click on that a bit here shortly. And This is some of the interesting stuff for me. ASI may be a coordinated collective, not a single model. You could almost think like agentic swarms, a network of agents. And I will touch upon this more, but potentially a civilization of superintelligence, a civilization of artificial intelligence. Universal AI. This is another section in the Google DeepMind paper. They talk about universal AI as a sort of threshold and upper bound for general intelligence. It's best known through the AI-XI framework, and we're not there yet, obviously. This is what they're sort of foreseeing as an upper strata of where the AI is going. It's useful as a compass, but not as a blueprint. And they're talking about four paths to ASI. So there's the traditional paths, which we're kind of pushing right now with all the hyperscalers, with all the data centers being built out, scaling, right? More compute, bigger models, more data. So this is a sort of brute force um, side of things, which the US is really heavy on right now. You've got OpenAI and Anthropic just pouring tons of compute into AI, and that's how they're getting to some of these frontier models. Right now, though, there's other countries like China exploring other paradigm shifts or algorithmic shifts, distillation and otherwise, to sort of try to make models without putting as much compute into it. Now, to be fair, they're kind of working on the shoulders of giants like some of the US labs. These paradigm shifts are going to include, though, also things like new architectures, memory, new types of memory, planning, just a new sort of scaffolding, potentially new ways that we build or we develop artificial intelligence, new ways to approach it, new strategies, right? Because we're still in the early innings of how we're developing this technology. And one of the big things that I think, and that I think Google Mind also believes, is going to start pushing us up that ramp towards ASI, artificial superintelligence, is basically recursive self improvement. So, as you get to a point where the AI can improve upon itself, iterate, improve upon itself, and it creates basically a flywheel or a snowball effect, that starts to really go exponential. And this is something you've probably heard about if you're interested in this subject, if you're deep in this subject. They talk about this a lot on the Moonshot podcast, which is a great podcast and show as well. I would definitely recommend you guys check out. The AI helps improve itself. And this is going to be big, and this is already starting. Like, if you look at some of the labs, Anthropic, they're talking about the fact that Mythos is already helping to build out their models, right? So they're using their Claude models to basically improve upon itself and help train the next model. So they're already using some forms of recursive self improvement. We're not fully there yet, though, because for it to have true recursive self improvement, it should be able to do it without a human in the loop. And there is still, as far as I know, a human in the loop. That could all change, though. And when that does change, things could start to accelerate very quickly. And these are some of the things that could really lead to explosive growth, new science, solving all math, solving a lot of figuring out cures or pathways to deal with diseases, cancers, helping people with aging, all sorts of things, right? Helping come up with solutions to feed the planet, to provide water to everyone. We're already going on along these pathways, and to be fair, we should be able to do that. We should be able to help everyone eat and have clean water. And one of the other roads to ASI, which we touched upon earlier, is multi agent collectives. This is really where you start to kind of starts to blow your mind. This is where many AGIs coordinate like a digital civilization. And this makes you think a little bit about the Borg in Star Trek, though the way I see it is as a benevolent network of agents of AI, a sort of hive mind, which I believe eventually humans will be connected to this hive mind. It'll be a sort of internet, but a super internet, a super intelligent artificial internet. And that I believe that's sort of where this is all going. Of course, there's no way to tell. There could be a lot of problems along the way, things that we have to smooth out. There will be bad actors, obviously. And if you see my video a couple days ago, you'll see how this is part of the reason the government is really um, vigilant right now with the Anthropic and OpenAI models that are being released now at the frontier, because these models have a lot of potential to do great good, but potentially do harm if they're in the wrong hands. And the other thing is, all of these four roads to ASI could be happening in parallel. So it's not necessarily going to be one or the other. They're all going to play a part according to this paper, which I think makes a lot of sense. And people will so we're going to be allowing recursive self-improvement. We're going to be doing research, probably with the help of the AI, to come up with these new architectures, new sort of scaffolding for AI systems, paradigm shifts. Multi-agent collectives will be developing alongside it all. And if you think about it, these multi-agent collectives will be also part of the recursive self-improvement loop, and they will themselves be figuring out these new architectures, these paradigm shifts that are going to further accelerate them and our reality into the next stage. I guess maybe somewhere around the 2050s, where we really start to hit potentially a golden era of free knowledge, of potentially deflation, where everyone can have food and water and hopefully safety, um, even abundance as well. Because the cost of materials and goods should theoretically, in this type of a society, with ASI and also with robotics, the cost of goods will lower dramatically. We're going to have hundreds of thousands of robots building things. You're going to have artificial intelligence handling so many jobs and tasks. And then essentially the cost of all these goods should be going closer and closer to zero, as the cost of this labor also goes closer and closer to zero. Because if you think about it, the cost of the labor is a part and parcel of the cost of the good that you're getting. And as you start to basically diminish those labor costs, you're more or less left with the material costs. And a lot of these materials will also get cheaper because we're going to have different systems, more efficient systems gathering these materials, moving the materials, the transportation, because transportation is also part of that material cost, gas and such, and we will have more efficient power systems as well, also partly due to ASI, which is going to help us develop um, new power routes. And we're going to be using solar power, a ton of solar power as well, because if you think about it, I think Elon Musk was talking about how the fact that we're only tapping into like a tiny fraction of the sun's energy with our solar arrays. And we really need to start ramping that up. And I think that's part of why space is one of the next frontiers in this road to ASI. Because as we start to pick up some of that solar energy in space by putting out the solar panels, putting out enormous arrays of solar panels in space, that's going to provide the power for a lot of this and a lot of our civilization. So I'm curious what you think. Do you think also that we will reach this sort of almost mythical ASI level? Do you think this is a little too far fetched? I'm curious your thoughts. Leave a comment below and subscribe. Once again, guys, welcome to the Latent Frontier. I am Jess, your host, and I hope you have a great day.